Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lindsay Hennekey, your sober coach and host. I am so glad that you're here, and I am really excited about today's topic. So we're not going to waste any time. However, before we dive in, I do want to welcome you if you're new, and if you've been around for a while, thank you so much. It means the world to me that you continue to listen and that you continue to show up for yourself in this journey. And I am so excited because that specific sentence is totally relevant to what we're talking about today. The name of the episode is that failure or fear talking? So we're going to talk about this a little bit. It's spooky season. Let's talk about one of the biggest fears that I see in high achieving women all the time who are trying to quit drinking. And I would say that this falls under the quitting drinking topic more so than any other major behavioral change that we're trying to make in our lives, because alcohol touches everywhere. You're not trying to lose 10 pounds here. You are not trying to say, you know what, I need to drink more water. You are saying, I live one way and I want to learn how to live another way completely. What we're saying is every time I leave the house, every time I come home from work, every time I turn on the TV, every time I have a date night with my partner or my husband, or every time I go out with my girlfriends, I'm saying that I'm going to start doing that differently than how I do it today. That is a big deal, okay? I want you to know that. And that's why this journey is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. Today, I want to talk about the fear of failing. I know you amazing, high-achieving women, we hate failing because we have our act together in so many other areas. And the thing that really comes to my mind about this is like, when we are, working on a project at work, let's say you have a big initiative that you're focused on, and every week you've got checkpoints in place, you're measuring the progress, you're looking at the deliverables, you're looking at what's been achieved so far and what has to still be done. And maybe you have a week where things didn't go right. The numbers aren't adding up. The things aren't getting done, but you're not calling it an epic failure. You're saying, okay, what do we need to change? What do we need to do differently? You pivot, you change course so that you still get the job done. And that's what we don't do in this journey enough. We don't step back, look at the data, look at our progress so far, look at where we still have to go, and reevaluate and pivot. We don't do that. We don't do that in a lot of our personal lives. But what if you did? What if you did? What if that Monday morning meeting with you actually just sat down and kind of looked at things logically, looked at the numbers, looked at the met milestones, and then looked at what you still needed to achieve? Because in our work life, we're used to achieving all of these things and accomplishing all these goals. But in our work life, we look at what went well, we look at what didn't go well, and then we move forward. So why aren't we doing that with this? All right, we're talking a little bit about that today. And let's think about this little internal voice that starts to call to us when we have this fear of failing, which is, well, what if I try again and I still can't do it? Because today I'm going to introduce how when you take a break from drinking and then you have a slip, that slip isn't failing. And I'm going to share a little bit about my own journey with this. I promise you, I'm not this thing or person you found on the internet that's just super shiny, happy, sober over here. That's not what's happening. And that's definitely not how my journey looked. So I'm going to get into some of that today. And also, let's talk about how even when you feel like you're failing, this in the low moments, how you feel like you're really behind or you're never going to get there, which I'll speak to my experience with that as well, how there's actually work being done in those moments. It's percolating. There's things happening in the subconscious. There's building going that is going to get us to that next amazing sober streak. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things. So The fear, though, the fear can keep us super stuck. It can keep us stuck long after we've decided that we want to change too. So I really want you to know how normal that is. It can really paralyze us. So we're going to talk about having fear be like a green light. I want to get into some of the science and psychology of fear. So here's what's really interesting about this. The fear of failing isn't just emotional, it is biological. The brain is wired literally to avoid pain, and failure, even just the thought of failing, registers as pain. So when you imagine, failing at sobriety, your brain triggers the amygdala, the fear center, which sets off stress responses. And what do many of us who are trying to quit drinking do when we feel stressed? We drink more. So this happens even if nothing has actually happened yet. Your brain's job is to protect you. So if failure feels like rejection or embarrassment or shame, your brain's going to do anything to avoid that. This is why you might find yourself procrastinating on change, even when you really want it, because it feels safer to not change. So add to that the dopamine hit that your brain gets from alcohol, and you're fighting a little reflex here. So it's not about not having this willpower or discipline to not drink. It's about wiring. Your brain has the pattern and the reflex, the autopilot to just say, oh, have the drink. That's the quickest path to relief. So this is about the wiring. So I have some amazingly good news for you, just so you know. So buckle up. Just like the brain can be wired into patterns of fear, it can also be rewired for resilience, which is exactly what I teach the women who hire me to work together. It's all about breaking these patterns and introducing micro changes into your life that sometimes when we're afraid, when we have a lot of fear going on, we're totally blocked to what that could even look like. And within the first few minutes of conversations that I have with, especially like brand new clients who come into my world, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, like, oh my gosh, is this really going to work? How's this lady actually going to get me out of my comfort zone here? And within just a few minutes, I am able to take everything that you share with me and turn it into a plan for you. And not a plan where you feel like you have to burn your whole life down and start from scratch and wake up tomorrow doing everything differently, but in a way that you are going to begin rewiring that brain of yours and build those habits in a doable way, a way that's going to feel really good because you're going to start to feel proud of yourself almost instantly. Now, yeah, there's always going to be these really hard days in this journey, which I'm going to talk about, but you have to look at this in a way where you can say, that seems reasonable. I can do that. Just like you do at work on a Monday morning when maybe things didn't go well and you have to craft a new plan for that next milestone in the project. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. Like, we have to put ourselves in a position where we can slow down and think critically, problem solve. You are an amazing problem solver. I know that you are. But when we get stuck and blocked with this fear, all problem solving goes out the window. We're unable to look beyond what's right in front of us. And that's what I help you do. I want to talk a little bit more about what this fear piece is, how we've trained our nervous system to relax. It's like, by drinking wine, it's running this like well-worn loop. So, we feel often, you'll say this, the word is like triggered. I really don't love the word triggered. The word triggered triggers me. I prefer the words emotionally activated. When I'm feeling emotionally activated, I used to run to wine and I would drink wine to, push down or stop making me feel that way. And so over all of that time, you're building that loop. It's a well-worn loop, and you're just reinforcing to your brain that when I feel this way, I drink. And back to my original point at the beginning around alcohol being everywhere, that loop is every time you walk out the door. It's not just when you get home from work and you have the kids to deal with and they're talking about homework or they're screaming or whatever they're doing and the husband's opening a bottle of wine and starting to cook dinner and you're like, geez, can I even put my bag down and think straight for a second? Like, it's not just that moment. It's also when you go out with your girlfriends. It's also when you attend a wedding. It's also when you go on vacation. It's that reward system. I've had a hard day, I drink. I'm on vacation, I deserve this, I drink. There's not just like one loop. They're just all telling you to drink. So the fear of failing, it's like your brain is protecting you from more disappointment, because if we don't do anything, we won't disappoint ourselves. We can stay the same, and then we don't have to worry about failing. And so remember, you don't want to stay the same because you don't like how you feel right now. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast episode or scrolling through sober content if you didn't really want to change. But this fear has you procrastinating on the change. The bottom line here is that when we allow ourselves to stay paralyzed and stuck because of fear, it's preventing us from growing. That's what it's doing. So, all right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. This journey is never linear. I want to talk about how messy it is. Sometimes when we might go 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, we're like, oh my God, I'm just like calling it the quits. I'm never going to get there. I've read all these books and I don't know how these women are doing it, but it's just not for me. And that doesn't mean that you're different. That's literally every single person who has tried to quit drinking. This is about building practices to completely change how you're living. Because remember, we're not going after a short-term goal of losing 10 pounds. We're saying, I live one way and I want to live a different way. I want to change how I respond to stress. I want to go on vacation with my family and remember every single moment. I want to get up early and hit the pavement sightseeing and not feel like crap or think about when do we get to stop for lunch so I can have a drink. Like, these are the things, like there's so much out there that you want, and I promise you're going to get to it. So what it means when we take a few steps back, it means that you're still in it. You're just learning. In those moments, that's where we have to be compassionate towards ourselves, because we have to just remind ourselves, oh yeah, this is what growing feels like. This is what it feels like to learn. I don't always know what I'm going to be doing. I don't always know what's going to come next. I'm learning. I'm learning as I go. There's these moments where you're going to think, oh, I'm just never going to get there. And I can't wait to tell you about mine. Mine was messy and sloppy. And it's just fatigue. When we get in those moments, it's like we're just tired. We're tired of all the growing and stretching that we're doing. Trying to quit drinking is like a lot of growing and stretching. It's being uncomfortable more than you're being comfortable. And sometimes we just really want to get back into this comfort zone. And it's just because we're tired. We've been growing, we've been stretching, we need a little break. And so we go back and we drink, and it's just, you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to take a break. You're not quitting. You're not giving up on yourself. You're just saying, gosh, I've been working so hard at this and I need to step back from it. Just like, school's in session and school's out of session sometimes. There were times in my journey that I backed off the work. I'm going to give you a brief timeline, but, I started after so many years of thinking about, oh my gosh, I can't continue like this. I drink too much. And new rules, all those moderation moments that I had when I was 39, which I think a lot of people start thinking about their life at 39, the cusp of turning 40. Anytime we're entering a new decade, I think that's really natural that we do that. I was 39. It was a month before my 40th birthday, and I read my first Quit Lit book. I read it in a weekend, maybe even less. That book was called A Happier Hour by Rebecca Weller. I'll link it in the show notes. And as well, I have another episode It's episode 20 where Rebecca Weller is a guest on the podcast. So definitely listen to that if you haven't listened to it yet. But so I read this book, and it's my first time seeing that another woman who, by the way, Rebecca Weller's just like me. I mean, just like me, only Australian. And where I'm like, wow, this woman quit drinking. And her journey was super messy, but I'm going to try to take 30 days of not drinking. So right then and there, Thanksgiving weekend of 2018, I decided to take 30 days off. I went on a business trip and didn't drink. I was in Washington, D.C. for a whole week on a business trip, and I didn't drink. Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it. And I went to a couple of little holiday parties, some a little casual, like little cookie swap things that really usually involve drinking. And then a couple of like fancier nighttime ones, and I didn't drink. And then on my 40th birthday, which I think was either day 28 or day 29 of this like 30-day break that I wanted to take, I got completely intoxicated, and I had all sorts of, I deserve it, it's my birthday, but I'm visiting my brothers, and blah, 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 all these excuses of why to quit on myself. Like in that moment, like why to say, it's okay, I'm close enough. 28, 29 days, I can't remember what it was. And I was so mad at myself the next day. I was visiting my mother, and I had promised her that I was going to make Christmas dinner, but I was too hungover. So my brothers kind of teased me, and they helped and did most of the cooking while I felt sorry for myself. And so that was a moment where I was just like, I'm such a failure. And I remember telling my husband, we were in the car, and I had said, I can't believe I drank last night. What a loser. I couldn't even make it to 30 days. Like I was so mad at myself. And he was so kind and just really supportive about like, Lindsay, you just made December, basically, most of December sober. Come on, be good to yourself. And so I was able to dust myself off, and we ended it. That was kind of a crazy holiday season because the day after Christmas, we flew from my mom's in Denver to Rochester, New York to visit my husband's family. And at that point, I had already kind of broken my commitment on my break. And so I was drinking wine then. And then by the end, of our little holiday tour there, I was just really ready to come home and start to make some new commitments to myself in January. Now, come January, no, you guys, you're like, oh, I bet she did dry January and it was amazing. Oh my God, no, it was not. It was epically horrible. So this is how I started that January. I picked up the book, This Naked Mind, amazing book. I was like, I need the science to tell me how bad drinking is. And that's going to slap the urge to drink right out of me. So I read that book, and yeah, it did a little. It definitely scared me. It had me thinking, oh my good God, this is definitely something I need to change. But I still drank. I did not do dry January. It's ridiculous. I maybe lasted a few days in January. And then I was so incredibly upset with myself that, I don't know, by mid-January, I kind of swore off everything. It was like everything I had learned and thought about and how good I felt during, my almost 30-day break in December, it was kind of gone for me in that moment. My motivation went away. Everything I was reading in This Naked Mind all of a sudden wasn't striking the chord that I had hoped it would. And I was really sad about it. But then I just sort of went back to my normal drinking, and I did everything that Rebecca Weller's book said, not to do, or not that it was to not do, but that she had learned lessons from, and everything that I had read in This Naked Mind. I almost was reinvigorated with the determination to try to moderate again. I had fresh rules. I would be able to be a normal drinker. And I even convinced myself that what I had done wasn't failing, but actually that I had learned so that I was going to be able to control this even more. Like almost the opposite effect of what it did longer term. And so I had my new rules. I sort of lived February, March, just drinking. 2019 was just drinking. And I was finding myself, or that part of it, I was finding myself less engaged at work, less happy with myself. My ambition was really just tanking. I felt like I didn't really know what to do. So that lasted 2 or 3 months. Then I sort of dusted myself off again. I was officially back to feeling sick and tired of feeling sick and tired from my drinking. So I went into this fresh thing of, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to start listening to Quitlet on audiobooks. I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to start to create a plan where not only am I not drinking, but I'm eating well. How can I shift these habits? And I went from this period of a couple of months where I was actually saying to myself, like, maybe I'm not meant to be somebody who quits drinking. Like, I'm just not like these other women who are living these sober lives. But now that I'm looking back, that time wasn't wasted. It was actually me figuring out again. I already had the information, but sometimes we just need more. I knew that I also couldn't stay drinking. And so even though that particular slip lasted several months before I got back out there to take breaks again, I was learning in that period. I was learning that this isn't good for me. I'm never going to just have one glass of wine on a Friday night. And so that wasn't wasted because I was still thinking about it. I was still circling the work. I was still building awareness, even though I would wake up every day feeling like garbage. So something that I decided to do during this time, I wasn't really challenged at work during this season of my life, which was, probably part of my problem. So I signed up for yoga teacher training and I was like, you know what? That's going to definitely help me quit drinking. I wouldn't say that it did, but it was still a really fun part of my journey. And I saw a lot of light through that time because I would sit in this room with, 30 other people where I was in this yoga teacher training and we were just so focused and it required a lot of energy, physical and mental. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if anybody else in here right now is thinking about when they're going to get home tonight and if they're going to have enough time to like drink and settle down. Because we were in this training Friday nights and then all day Saturday and then all day Sunday. And I just remember thinking, like, I bet I'm the only one in here that's thinking about drinking right now. And that was a big realization for me. And it was eye-opening to a vision of myself of how I wanted to be living versus how I was living. Now I'm not saying that I wanted to like quit my job and become a yoga teacher. That was very much not what I wanted. I always looked at my yoga journey as something that would just sort of help me, give me another way to slow down and live more intentionally. And I really enjoyed learning about it. And I've always looked at it as like something that I might do when I retire, teach yoga, whatever. And so it wasn't like I was looking to shift into that as a full lifestyle, but it did really open me up to a community of people that lived differently and they had a lot of qualities that I wanted in myself. So that is what that taught me. It taught me my actions and my behavior are not aligned with how I want to be living. And so, because the woman that was sitting next to me, she wasn't sitting there thinking, when is this going to be over? I really want to like go home and sit on my couch and drink. Like she wasn't doing that. So these were very big observations that I was able to make about how my actions were not aligned with how I wanted to be living. I really want you to think about that. Think about what are the things that I'm doing and I'm thinking that are keeping me stuck here versus the way I want to be living. And then the real turning point is when you can start to create the actions that get you living the way you want to be. This is what the work is that I do with women. This isn't just about like, how do I put the drink down? How do I not pour the glass of wine? There's a lot of those tactical day-to-day things that we map out, but it's also about what do I need to be thinking and doing every day to live the way I want to be living and the way I want to show up, how I want to feel. That was a big pivotal moment in my journey, but I didn't quit right away. The night before our yoga teacher graduation ceremony, I think I drank more than I had in a really long time. I was so incredibly hungover for that, and I felt awful. And it was almost like I had sabotaged myself and didn't want to give myself credit for achieving the 200-hour certification, because I just still didn't feel like I was enough, because it didn't give me what not like what I thought it would, but it wasn't enough, because I knew alcohol was still holding me back. After that, it still took me several months. It was over a year before I quit drinking after I wrapped that up. I just want you to know that this is messy. The things that you're doing to help you get there, even though they don't feel like it in the moment, they are a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to look at them and realize how pivotal they are in this journey. So I just misspoke. I finished my yoga teacher training in May of 2020, and I quit drinking. My last day one was August 10th of 2020. It was several more months. There was a lot of other things going on. As you know, that's like the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020. And so there was a lot of different type of drinking going on. My habits at home, it was much more regimented in that time. And so I really knew that I was going to have to make some changes. And I got a new job that was very demanding. I honestly couldn't believe that I got this job. I was like, how did I trick these really smart people into hiring me? And I quickly realized that I needed to get my act together if I was going to deliver. And so I really started to rein it in and focus. And there were a lot of times I gave myself the excuse of I could drink. Oh, Lindsay, you're still onboarding. You don't have to quit yet. It's still summer, or you can stretch this out. You don't have to quit yet. And then I was faced with, I had this hysterectomy. And so I had to have a hysterectomy, and that's a whole other story. So I won't go into that. But I was really afraid to go under anesthesia. I had been drinking so much that summer. And I just decided that I wasn't going to drink for the 2 weeks before that surgery. And that really helped me motivate and build momentum. So this is what I'm saying, where earlier I was talking about, and we're going to get into this deeper, around we feel like we're failing. We don't feel good. Maybe we take a break and we feel good, and then we slip and we get into these like discouragement moments. And it's really hard to get out of the discouragement and build momentum and feel motivated in our journey. And so this was kind of that moment for me. So for the week before that, I really sat down. I created my plan. What am I going to do? I created plans for every single night after work. I had my meal plan, like everything was scheduled so that I would not drink for that 2 weeks. And honestly, it felt kind of easy because I was motivated by the idea of the surgery and having the alcohol out of my system. And then after that, obviously, I had a little assist because I was medicated and I was recovering. And so there was a little bit of ease there because I wouldn't have been drinking. Now, there were plenty of times before where I'd had a surgery and I was like counting down to, God, when am I going to be off these pain meds so I can start drinking my wine again? But this was different. I really felt that this was a pivotal moment in my life where I needed to, as they say, shit or get off the pot. And so I did it. And I never looked back, but I still had to like get up every day and put one foot in front of the other. It just was different this time. There was more on the line this time. And all that I had done that 20 months before led to this. It wasn't like this time I was successful or this time I didn't fail. That's not what this is about. All of the other things built me up, made me stronger, gave my brain the evidence that this was how I wanted to be living. It all clicked into place at that moment. I was propelling myself the whole time, and this just happened to be the final moment where I was ready to change. So I really want you to know, like, this is a messy journey. And when we let the fear of failure or when we let, discouragement give us fear. Oh, I'm just going to fail again. I'm just going to fail again. When we let discouragement get in the way and keep us stuck, the longer we stay in that discouragement zone, the harder it is to get out of it. So, all right, we're going to talk a little bit about what to do instead. This is exactly why I coach the women the way I do, because we're not just trying to stay strong through temptation or have willpower or whatever. We are rewiring the reflex. We are breaking the pattern, getting you out of autopilot so that you slow down so that you can make a different choice. So we build these plans around your real life so that even when you have this rough day, you're not spiraling back into the shame of when you pour a drink. So I'm going to talk you through 3 little steps that you can take right now. So you can grab your pen and paper, pause the episode, listen along here. The first one is take a little bit of a zoom out. I know that you hear all the time in the sober world, 1 day at a time, 1 minute at a time, but let's be real here. If you're listening to this podcast, you are probably just like me. You've got lists, you've got your calendar, you've got things scheduled out, you have the action items of what you need to do to get what you want done. So this is no different. Ask yourself, what does my week actually look like when I feel most clear and grounded? So then when we can plan out a little bit, and maybe a week feels too long, but when we look at just the next few days on our calendar, if I want to live sober this week, I want my actions to be aligned with my goals. I want my actions to bring me to the way I want to be living. What does my week need to look like? What's on my calendar where I would normally drink? And how am I going to plan ahead so that I don't drink? And what is it that I need to do? Maybe I need to skip something this week because I don't feel strong enough. Maybe I know that I'm going to have a really hard day at work because there's a big deadline and I'm going to need to come home and rest after. I need that night to be early to bed so that I'm fresh-faced the next day. Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to say no to? What do I need to bring into my life so that I'll feel clear and grounded? And name it, anchor that in, really write those things down. Build in the walk on the calendar after work. Build in the call my sibling or call my parents. Build those things in so that you're getting connection, so that you are taking care of yourself. The next one is track patterns, not number of days sober or perfection mindset stuff. What time of day does the wine pour reflex kick in? Is it 5 o'clock every time? Really track that. And what emotion comes first? This is the data that you're looking for. And I also want you to keep in mind that the pattern might be at 5 o'clock, I drink the drink. But really, when we think about the pattern, what is the emotion that comes first? That emotion might be showing up at noon or 2 or 3. This is where the alarm bell needs to go off in your brain. This is the, whoop, I'm feeling emotionally activated. I literally just said to myself, oh my God, is it 5 yet? I can't wait to go home and have my glass of wine. Whoop. That's where we have to change. That is the moment that you need to address, not the 5 p.m. you. You need to address the afternoon you that starts thinking about the alcohol. This is the moment that you take a walk. And if you don't have time for a walk, because I know I used to live this life, back-to-back meetings, you're afraid to drink water because there's not time to use the restroom in between them. I know that life. I know it well. And I have a lot of empathy for you if that's where you're at right now. Build in 60 seconds. Go outside your house or your office, wherever you work, for 60 seconds and just take a couple of deep breaths of fresh air. You change your environment, you're going to be able to change your thought track and then get your ass back into the office and go back to work. But you've got to break these patterns. You have to do little things like that so that you can change how you're thinking. Because once you start thinking about that drink, that's all you think about the rest of the day. So that's your alarm bell, okay? Tracking those patterns. Now, the next one is around interrupting the loop. So if you know that you have these afternoon things that come up, that's the part that I just mentioned. Go outside, take a walk, go outside and just breathe in for a minute. Do whatever you can to kind of shift around your environment. We have to just change our environment. You change the room you're in, you'll start thinking about something different. Like, I mean, come on, how many times have you walked into a room to go get something, and by the time you get there, you forget what you went in there to get? So walking into another room helps you change your thoughts, right? This is the other piece. Okay, choose a small change that you're going to bring into your week. And this is, I need to break a pattern. So if I normally pour a drink at 5 o'clock, what am I going to do instead? You're just going to make that one change. Something that I always did was when I finished my work day, even when I was working remote because of the pandemic, I would be, wearing like leggings and some sort of top, my Zoom top, as they called them for a while. Even if that's what I was wearing, I would change my clothes immediately when I finished work. And when I was going back into the office, when I came home, I would just change my clothes. Doesn't matter. Sometimes I would wash my face too. We need to freshen up a little bit. It's been a long day. We're tired. What's a way that you can take care of yourself instead of drinking? So just make like one little change. Pour yourself a sparkling water in a fancy glass, something like that, or drink it out of the can, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be crazy. Just do something instead of pouring that drink, okay? Doesn't have to be huge for it to work. We're talking about pattern interruption, and this is how we build momentum. And as we get momentum in our journey, like through these little actions, motivation builds. And guess what happens then? We're keeping all these little promises to ourselves. All of a sudden, 3, 4, 5 days in a row happen, and you've broken the old pattern. You're disrupting it. You're in that process, and you start to feel good. You start to feel really proud of yourself. You're like, oh, it's day 3. Oh my gosh, and here I am opening my sparkling water. You're going to feel really good. These are just like little tiny changes that also equal little promises that you're making and keeping to yourself. If you are nodding along in this episode saying, oh my gosh, that's me, or maybe I can do this too. First of all, I want you to know you absolutely can do this. You are doing it. You're not doing it. You're still showing up for yourself. Like, I see you showing up for yourself. I want you to know that if you're circling these same patterns around telling yourself, like, I should be able to figure it out by now. How come it's not working for me right now? Let everything I've told you today prove that you are figuring it out. It is happening for you. You're in it. You're here for it. So I want you to know this like really clearly. Whether you drank last night, whether you drink tomorrow night, the next day isn't starting over. You are starting from experience, just like every other aspect of your life. It's about awareness, and that is what's going to give you power. It gives you knowledge. Knowledge is power. You know this. All right. I hope that this episode helped you and maybe lit a little fire in you. That's what I'm really hoping, to say, yeah, I can do one thing differently and start repeating that every week. Do a little something different. And also remember, you're not behind. You're not like going too slow. Don't compare yourself to other people. Gosh, I hate how we all do that. It's so annoying. It doesn't help. So only compare your today self to your yesterday self. Did you drink less this week than you did last week? That is a great thing to compare yourself to. So if you're also saying, Lindsay's right, I need to get some help here, go ahead and book a discovery call with me. It's free and we can talk. We're going to talk about some of the things maybe that you've tried so far and why they haven't worked. And we're going to talk about how working together would fit in your life. How does it look? What does it take? How long will you take to get there if you speed it up by hiring me? Because that's what happens. When you hire support, you're speeding everything I just talked about up. It doesn't have to take 20 months. It doesn't. Go ahead and book a discovery call with me. The link is in the show notes. And if you loved this episode, I hope that you will rate it, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a new episode, because when you do those little actions, it helps other women who need help find it. And I also really appreciate it. So Send me an email, send me a DM, or book that discovery call. I can't wait to see you on my calendar. And I cannot wait to see how far you go when you get to the other side of alcohol. Bye.